In this video we're going to use Onshape to create the upper torso for the LUX model. So start off as usual by creating a document and giving it a title. So LUX upper torso, and that will take us through into the modelling area. So for this one we're going to start off on the right work plane. So right click on the right work plane, select new sketch, right click, select normal to sketch plane. And we're going to start off with a center point rectangle, which we're going to create from the origin. So drag it out, and then we're going to use the dimension tool to give that some sizes. So the vertical lines want to be 35, and the horizontal line wants to be 25 millimeters, and that's our rectangle created. We're now going to extrude that to give us our basic block for modelling on. We're going to change the condition from blind to symmetric, and that distance is going to be 42 millimeters. So pressing tab should update it, and then if I flip round to the side, you can see I've got my shape. Excuse me. Okay, so now on the bottom two edges, we're going to apply a fillet. So select the fillet tool and change the size to 12.5. Click on the first bottom edge, hold the right mouse button down to spin it around, click on the other bottom edge, and click to show that we're happy. Then on the surface facing us, we're going to right click, select new sketch, and we're going to view normal to the sketch plane, and then we can use the scroll wheel to zoom in a little bit. This time we're going to use a corner rectangle. We're going to start off near the bottom. It doesn't matter if we go a little bit over, if it doesn't pick up on that radius, and just drag up somewhere near the top, and now we'll dimension this. So from the left hand side, we're coming in 8 millimeters. From the right hand side, we're also coming in 8 millimeters, and from the top, just 3 millimeters. And we're now going to extrude cut that. So go to the extrude tool. This time we're going to go onto remove, and we can just change that so that it goes through all, so the end condition goes all the way through, and click on the green tick to show that we're happy with that. Okay, we're now going to spin this round slightly so that we've got clear access to this face, which is where we're going to create our next sketch. So right click on that face, select new sketch. Now we're going to use the offset tool, and we're going to click on this line, and it's come up with 5 millimeters as default, which is actually what we want. So we're going to use that line, this line, and the other vertical line. So we're happy with that, so we can hit enter and enter again to confirm that. And at the top, we're going to want a line that goes all the way across. So if we just spin that around slightly, we can use the line tool to draw in a line from corner to corner, just making sure it snaps. And we also want to do the same here, so we're going to put a line on there, and a line on there, and we're just going to use the circle tool, pick up the middle of the radius, and we can snap it to that point, save us having to put dimensions in. So we now just need to trim out the bits we don't want. So we don't want the line that's crossing through the sketch, we don't want the bottom curve, and we don't want the line along the bottom. So we want this horseshoe shaped sketch. We're now going to go to our feature, extrude. Again, we're going to remove, and we're going to change the distance to 4 millimeters, which will take away half of that edge there. Click on the tick. So we're happy with that. We want to do the same on the other side, so instead of redrawing that, we can mirror that feature. So we use the mirror tool. Now it's on part mirror at the moment, so we need to change that to feature mirror. If we select extrude 3 as the feature and then the mirror plane, we want to pick up the right work plane, click the tick, and it's cut that out. We're now going to clean up those sharp corners and put a chamfer on those corners. So we're going to use the chamfer tool. We're going to equal distance, but we're going to change it to 2 millimeters. And we're going to chamfer around there and around there, and it's automatically selected the connected lines, and likewise around there and around there. So click the tick, you can see that we've got nicely chamfered edges. We're now going to put in a hole, so we're just going to spin that round so we can see one of these faces, and right click on one of those faces, new sketch, and the center circle tool. Right click, view normal to work plane, and this is going to be centered to this radius. So if we hover over the radius, we can see where the ends are, and if we come across, we can also line it up with the origin. Drag out a circle, doesn't matter that it's too big. Zoom in with the mouse wheel if we want, and then we can dimension that to be 6 millimeters. Back to our feature. Again, we're going to remove material, and we're going to go all the way through, so just change the condition to through. And there's our part so far. Right, we're now going to build onto the top of this, but we're going to do it from the front edge. So zoom in, pick up the front edge, right click, select a new sketch, right click, select view normal to sketch plane. So we're going to use the line tool to do this. We're going to start off just by drawing a line from corner to corner, so make sure it highlights those and snaps to those. We're now going to draw a line above it that's a bit longer, and then we're just going to draw the two corners together. We're now going to add some dimensions to that. So first of all, we're going to dimension between two lines, make sure it's a vertical distance, and that's going to be 5 millimeters. And then we're going to dimension between the lines here, so that's going to be 45. And do the same on this side. That's going to be 45. And because this line length is set by the top, we've given it a height, we've given it an angle, so that sketch is fully defined. And we're now going to extrude that up to this surface. So pick the extrude tool, pick up to face, I'm going to pick that end face. If that doesn't work, then the distance is 25 millimeters, so you can go blind at 25. Right, now for the next step, we're going to actually sketch on the top. So select the top surface, right click, new sketch, right click, view normal to sketch work plane. We're going to start off with a corner rectangle, so we're going to pick up this corner, and we're going to line it up there and then drag it a bit more. So I don't know if you can see in the video, but there's sort of dotted orange dashes along the line there to show that it's lined up, so I don't need to dimension it. If I do need to dimension it, I can give it the width of our part. So I'm going to dimension that rectangle, and the length is going to be 35 millimeters. I'm now going to draw a circle. I'm going to use a center circle. I'm just going to come inside that edge, but I'm going to make sure that I'm on this line and just drag out a circle. Did I say centimeters? I meant millimeters. I'm now going to dimension the diameter of this to 35 millimeters, and the distance from the line of the rectangle to the center of the circle I'm also going to dimension, and that is 2 millimeters. So that's the outline shape I want, so I need to cut off any lines that mean that we've got a point with more than 2 lines. So this point here, we'd have one going to the left, one to the right, one going up, one coming down. So I need to make sure that my sketch conforms to the rules. And there we have the outline shape for this. So now I can extrude that shape just to spin it round. It's going upwards, which is what we want, but I want the distance to be 20 millimeters. So type that in, hit enter, and click on the tick. Now I'm going to put a radius on this front corner here of 15 millimeters. So I'm going to use the fillet tool, change the dimension to 15, and click on that front edge. And I'm also going to put a radius on these 2 corners here. So again, pick the fillet tool, and these are going to have a radius of 5, which is the default. So I can just click on there, click on that edge, click the tick, and that's the next part done. Nearly there now, just a few more features to add to it. Okay, we're going to spin it around now, so you're holding down the right mouse button, and I'm going to pick this surface. So I'm going to right click on that surface and create a new sketch, and right click view normal to plane. I'm going to draw a center circle, and I'm going to come over sort of to this point here, and I'm just going to drag out a circle, and now I'm going to dimension it. So the circle diameter wants to be 12 millimeters, and it wants to be 27 millimeters from the origin. So click there, click to the circle, change that to 27, and then vertically from there to there, so come over here, that wants to be 7 millimeters. So that's the position of that circle. I'm going to go to the extrude tool, just going to spin it around with the right mouse button, make sure it's going in the right direction. That wants to be 24 millimeters. Click the tick, and now I'm going to right click on that top surface, select new sketch, and right click view normal to sketch plane. So I'm going to draw a center circle from the middle of the circle, snap it to the edge. If it doesn't snap to the edge, just draw it too big and then dimension it so it's 12 millimeters in diameter. And then I'm going to draw a line, making sure I snap across the diameter, and then I'm going to trim that. So I've got a semicircle. Doesn't like the idea of the dimension there now. So I'm going to turn off the trim tool, select dimension, delete the dimension. So I had to dimension it to make sure it matched, but of course because we put that line in that was snapping to it, it was over constraining it. That's fine, that happens sometimes. Now I'm going to go to this feature, the revolve feature, and we're going to pick the diameter as the axis. Now that's actually going to create a complete sphere, but it doesn't matter because it's going to merge. So there we have that shape. Now we're going to mirror that. So we're going to use our mirror tool. And we're going to zoom out so that we can see our different planes. So again, we need to change it from part to feature. And we need to pick extrude 7 and revolve 1. And then select the mirror plane box. And we're going to pick the plane that's going to allow it to mirror. And then tick. So we've got those 2 pieces there. And then the final part, we're going to click on this top surface, right click, new sketch, right click, view normal to work plane. And we are going to zoom in and concentric to the circle, So hopefully it will pick it up. There we go. So you can see it's highlighted the outside of the circle now. I'm going to draw another circle. I'm going to dimension that to 10 millimeters. And I'm going to do an extrude remove, and I'm going to change the condition to through all. Click tick, and you can see that that's gone through the cylinders as well. And that's basically a route for the cable to go through that goes up to the bulb, up in the head of the robot. So that's that part done.